Welcome you to the school board meeting of Tuesday, November the 10th. The public is encouraged and welcome to address the school board at the hearing of citizens. If you wish to speak during the hearing of citizens, click up a card in the back of the chambers or outside of the chambers. Print your name and topic clearly, and you will be called on at the proper time. Right now, we will have the flag salute by the Northport High School Color Guard under the direction of Senior Chief William Rennie, U.S. Navy retired. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Cadet Aiden Borchard, and I'm here with the NJRTC program from Northport High School, and I'm giving a speech on about Veterans Day. Tomorrow, we pause to honor the courage and sacrifice of our veterans. Known as Remembrance Day in Canada, this holiday was called Armistice Day in the United States until being renamed Veterans Day in 1954. That year, President Eisenhower issued a proclamation stating, "Let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly, on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores, to preserve our heritages of freedom. And let us rededicate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain." Over half a century later, this appeal is as meaningful as ever. On November 11th, we should draw strength from our past as we shape our future. New threats to our homelands require renewed vigilance, and the men and women of our military are aggressively engaged to protect our citizens where they live and work and around the world. As we express our appreciation for the brave soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen who preceded us, may their legacy of service and commitment continue to inspire us. We will always cherish and defend the freedoms they fought to preserve. Thank you to all the veterans and your families for all that you do for our great nation. And at this time, I would like to recognize my personal hero and father, Forrest Borchard. He's right there. He's one of the hardest working men that I've ever known, and he spent over 10 years in the Air Force. He's been an incredible role model and figure in my life, and I'm thankful that he's my father. And I have a little gift for him. It's I would like to present you with a Northport High School NJRTC unit coin.
Left. Post the colors. About. Face. Forward. March. Left. 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 Inboard. Face. Color guard. Right. Face. Left. Left. Forward. March. Left. Left. Left.
Please be seated. Our student rep tonight is Kendall Seeley, and she is prepared to talk about her Civility Squad Trait of the Month and how it speaks to her. Kendall, welcome.
All right, well, my name is Kendall Seeley, and I am the student representative from Northport High School. And before I start, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at this meeting and represent my fellow peers and my school. But first, I should start a little bit about myself. I'm a senior at Northport High School, like I said, and I'm currently enrolled in the ACE program, and actually I'm an ACE diploma recipient with merit. Some clubs that I'm involved in is I'm the executive board secretary at my school's student government, which I've been involved in since my sophomore year of high school. I'm also involved in the poetry club, which I have also been involved in since my sophomore year. I'm a new inductee into my school's Golden Pog chapter of National Honor Society, which I'm very excited about. Outside of school, I do hold a job at the Walmart Neighborhood Marketplace in Northport, which I've had for a little over a year now, so since early August of last year. My plans for after high school is I hope to attend FSU or Florida State University to study medicine and hopefully become a pediatric physician's assistant. I'm in the top 10% of my class, and I hold a 4.84 GPA, and I currently have over 120 hours of community service. So. And a little bit about the Speaking Kindly character trait of the month. So personally, I think my school does have a lot of examples that represent kindness in both the students and the environment that Northport kind of obtains. So one thing that I do know is that NHS, or National Honor Society, last year, I personally wasn't a member, but like for the general service project they did something called Kindness Rocks. And basically all the members, what they did was that they wrote little positive affirmations on these tiny little rocks. They painted them, they made them look really pretty, and they kind of distributed them around the school. And I just thought that was a good example of spreading kindness and talking to others kindly, because it just kind of gives an uplifting message around the school. If you'd see them, it just kind of brings like a positive, more positive light towards your day. Another thing that my school kind of represents for kindness is something called Link Crew. I thought this was a good example was because for the incoming freshmen, we have something called Link Crew. And basically that's just an orientation for newcoming freshmen held more so by upperclassmen, and this just kind of gives them a welcoming environment into Northport High School. And we do tours, and we kind of give them what it's like being a new freshman coming into high school out of middle school, because I know that can be kind of scary, and I know that coming in from a freshman, in my perspective, doing the orientation, it was really nice having something that for both freshmen and stuff that was held by the upperclassmen, because they've done it, they've been freshmen, and I felt like that was really good because they were encouraging to ask questions. They made us feel really welcome, so I think that's a positive thing as well. Another thing that the school has done, personally, I'm in student government, like I said, and something we wanted to do for the students, kind of just spread positivity and uplift people during, especially during times with COVID. Something we did was that we decorated the hallways for Spirit Week, and I thought that was a good example was because we heard a lot of positive feedback from it. So the student government, each class, they decorated their own building, and it was really nice because it was during Spirit Week, it was for class color day, and it was a surprise for the students. It was just really nice because it was something to look forward to, and it's like a nice surprise for them during Spirit Week, and especially during with COVID, we can't really do a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you, Kendall. So it seems like you're a little busy. Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you.
We would like to thank you for serving, excuse me, as our student representative, and I have already given you your certificate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
having
coming.
me.
The first presentation this evening begins with the PBIS model schools. And I'd like to invite Deborah Jackalone and Rex Ingrick to the podium to begin tonight's presentation, please.
Yep. Good evening, school board members, Superintendent Asplin, Madam Chair, Ms. Zucker, Mr. Hardy, Kendall, and our great community. I'm very happy to be here tonight to celebrate the success of our positive behavior supports in many of our schools. With the support and vision of Dr. Laura Kingsley, our fantastic school board, our outstanding school-based leaders, our teachers and staff, and the best students around, What started as one model school has now flourished into the recognition of 18 schools. From teaching appropriate behavior, to our bus drivers reinforcing positive behaviors on the bus, to incorporating the principles of civility with our civility squad, we have been able to improve outcomes for all of our students. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to the man who coordinates it all behind the scenes, Mr. Rex Ingrid.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, so I'm going to ask Christian or Jamal to come help me navigate this. I used to know PowerPoint, but now we're using something else. You got it? You got it? Go ahead. Yep. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing, well, first of all, hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here today. So I'm going to go through every few minutes, but I want to give you a little flavor for how our schools got selected. So the criteria this year was changed a little bit because of COVID, but because of that, it actually gave us a little extra responsibility to modify for our students while they were home. So the bronze level criteria was that all schools were able to submit their data, which was used by USF, PBIS to determine whether or not they had good fidelity at the Tier 1 whole school level. Also at the bronze level, they had to have discipline rates that were 1.5 times or lower than the average rate of similar schools across the state of Florida. So they weren't just competing against ourselves in Sarasota, but across all the state of Florida for similar sized schools. So that was the criteria for our bronze schools. For our gold level schools, they had to meet the same less than 1.5 times the exclusion rate for office referrals and OSS. They also had to have less than 2.5 risk ratio for special populations, African American students, Hispanic students, and ESE students. So their rates of exclusion were lower than 2.5, which is the state standard for what they believe to be exclusionary. So all of our gold schools, all 6, were below in that statistical category as well. In addition, they had to document how they adjusted their positive behavior support system and plan to support our learners for the last 9 weeks while they were in the home environment. So all the schools were able to document how they expanded those things and reached out to the students and families during those 9 weeks of time. Here, okay. So at this time, I want to acknowledge all of our bronze schools. So once we get to there, I'm going to pause and I'm going to kind of do a roll call because we have most of our staff here someplace in the audience, and we have a great deal of our staff that are joining us at home or in their schools back on site. So if you're in present, I'd just like you to stand up when I call off your name. So again, these are bronze level schools for 2019-20. Alta Vista Elementary School. Atwater Elementary School. Booker Middle School. Fruitville Elementary School. Glen Allen Elementary School. Northport High School. Oak Park School. Philippi Shores Elementary School. Tuttle Elementary School. Venice Senior High School. Wilkinson Elementary School. And Woodland Middle School. So these are our bronze award winners for 2019-2020. And as I get ready to introduce and talk to you about the gold students, or gold schools, I just wanted to point out that this is the very first year we've had any secondary schools be acknowledged for model school with the PBIS. So we had 5 middle and high school schools who made that, and also Oak Park was acknowledged as being a bronze level school based on their comparison data against other center schools across the state of Florida. So they have made, our secondary and our center schools have made tremendous progress over the last few years with a lot of hard work and effort. So now I'd like to acknowledge our 6 gold level schools: Ashton Elementary School, Bayhaven Elementary School, Englewood Elementary School, Gulfgate Elementary School, Toledo Blade Elementary School, and Venice Middle School. And Venice Middle School not only is gold, but it's our first secondary school to obtain gold level status. So congratulations to these schools. Okay, at this time I've asked Erin Rice, the assistant principal at Venice Middle School, if she would come up and just share a brief comments of how they have ascertained the gold level status at Venice Middle School. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present on Venice Middle School's PBS program and all the wonderful work our teachers and staff have done over the past few years to reach the model school status. The importance of PBS isn't just the rewards for doing well, like most people might first think. There are 10 critical elements of PBS that we have focused on. Most of these revolve around proactive strategies that we gradually implemented over the past several years. Examples include school-wide and classroom champs expectations, a culture of respect, responsibility, and safety, meeting with students early on who need a focused review of expectations, teacher, student, and behavior specialist meetings to facilitate problem solving, and review and reflection of our discipline data. Since March, PBS has also added additional ways to promote and reward students that are remote learners. We continue to work with our staff, students, and parents to tweak our program to meet all the needs and create the best learning environment for our students. Go Chargers.
And finally, we're going to have some highlights that we're going to run through the screen fairly quickly. And just so you know, last year we had 5, so of course, weren't in COVID either, so we were able to spread out, have the banners, and each school was able to have individual anecdotals shared with all of us. But with 18, we were trying to kind of figure out how can we acknowledge everybody. So with the help of Mandy Coker and then input from all of our schools, we have summarized all the highlights in about 5 or 6 screens. So I'm going to kind of read those as we go through because it goes a little fast. So we've had daily TV and news shows, school stores, and positive office referrals. And these aren't for any individual school, they are a summary of many schools together. We're modifying our PBS expectations for remote learners. We're doing Pen Pal Heroes, the team who are sending postcards to remote learners and their parents. And we have a school-wide behavior tracking system. Positive rewards connected to college and career readiness, utilizing champs to teach the how of classroom and school-wide expectations, and videos to demonstrate appropriate behavior, character traits, and social-emotional learning lessons. Bus driver participation in our PBS expectations, quarterly celebrations, students of the month, and our PBS attendance bingo. Morning meetings, school-based positive recognition extended to remote learners, school-wide communication boards to assist students with communicating and understanding. Lanyards and brag tags earned for demonstrating expectations and character traits, the cafeteria space race focusing on cafeteria behavior, Champs and PBS commercials were developed by students, and online spirit celebrations. So to finally wrap this up, congratulations to all of our schools. It is a tremendous accomplishment to not only get the data in and be acknowledged by USF-PBIS, but it's the work day in, day out. We're focusing on Tier 1 school-wide, but we know that we couldn't accomplish that without focusing on all the needs and individual needs that our kids and our teachers have. So thank you so much, and I'm very proud of all of you and having a chance to work with you over the years to see this grow and finally get the recognition that we deserve. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, your PBIS reminds me of a story I read this morning. I believe it was in the newspaper. Not sure where I was, but it was an old Cherokee story about two wolves. And this grandfather was telling his son that there's a battle going on inside of him. There are two wolves. One is evil, and he represents anger and envy and greed, self-pity, lies, false pride. There's others. And the other one is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, humility, compassion, and faith. And the boy thought about it, and he said, well, which wolf will win? And the father said, or the grandfather said, the one that you feed. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here. We are feeding on the good parts that we can bring out in our children, and I think that's always the best. You know, rather than saying you've done something wrong, if we can tell them you've done something right, I think that makes us all feel better. And I think if we can all have that good wolf inside of us winning those battles, continue to feed them. And I really appreciate what you're doing in our schools and spreading that. Thank you.
Dr. Asplin?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say this is outstanding. And for anyone that's not in schools or visiting schools, you might not have any idea what it is to get this to happen at a school. And I'll tell you, I've been visiting the schools, as you know, and when I walk in the schools, I can tell. No one had to tell me that we had 18 PBIS model schools. I could tell when I walk in these schools that they are PBIS model schools. You know, just the expectations that they have, being proactive, like you said, and the behavior, the positive behavior in the schools, the routines that you see for everybody, Tier 1 students across the board. That's what helps us promote academic success. That's what helps our teachers and our administrators do the outstanding job that they do, because they've tackled this on the front end. They don't have to worry about this as much, and they can really concentrate on the academics. So hats off to you. You are amazing, outstanding, extraordinary. So thank you very, very much.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, I agree. I think you can tell when you walk into a school if it's has a positive ness about it. And I think it's particularly difficult to do this in high schools. I think it is very difficult, and we have 2 high schools that are at this level. And I want to thank Northport, and I definitely want to thank Venice High School because I know Eric, what you do and how your leadership has been forwarded in this and in a lot of other issues, and it's just a delight to see this, delight to see Northport doing this as well. And I want to say to all of you, this is really what is the bedrock, I think, of our work, is to develop a kindness, develop a consideration and respect for others that this program does. And I think we're all very fortunate to have this many schools in our district, so congratulations all.
Mrs. Ziegler?
No, I want to echo those sentiments. I think that especially now than ever, in a climate that's incredibly challenging, even just the working environment and the challenge that so many of you had to deal, and continuing on with that positive reinforcement and really creating that positive culture, to Dr. Asplin's point, is game-changing. And so my hat is off to all of you for really keeping that focus, knowing what we're here for, that mission. I know it is not easy, and to Mrs. Goodwin's point about even at the secondary level, but this is really building the future for the future generation. So I thank you so much, because I know, again, it is not easy work, but you guys have kept focus, and really that's going to be instrumental to the success of our students and future generations. So thank you again for your commitment.
I'd just like to say congratulations to all 18 schools. I know that it was hard work for you to accomplish everything that you did, but it's greatly appreciated because it goes to the future to our future. Our children are our future. So thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite Carol K. Brown to the podium to introduce preparing new principal graduates, please. Pictures. Oh, sorry.
Scott, yeah, you gotta go. You gotta go back.
Look to the left.
Huh? Yeah. Hopefully some people outside can come in.
Everybody say PBIS.
BIS.
Huh? I can see that. Wow, really clearing them out. She got a picture taken? She's. Oh, I'm sorry.
Next, I would like to invite Carol K. Brown to the podium to introduce preparing new principal graduates. Welcome, Carol.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Asplin, Mr. Hardy, and student representative. We are here tonight to honor the 2020 graduating class of preparing new principals. Sarasota County Schools began growing their leaders in 2003. The district recognized the need to develop a deliberate career pathway and strong leadership program for aspiring leaders. Preparing New Principals is a 2-year program that develops school principals who can impact and improve teaching and learning in schools and can lead schools to success. Assistant principals are prepared and trained on how to create a positive school culture and working conditions for teachers, as well as how to positively impact teacher and student achievement. These 10 amazing leaders have demonstrated the ability and knowledge to create a learning environment that sparks innovation and enthusiasm for learning. They have built a culture that values each and every student and every staff member. They ensure that the voices of their students and staff are amplified and fulfilled to their greatest potential. This is what these 10 amazing leaders do every single day. It has been an honor to work collaboratively with this group of outstanding administrators. We have grown collectively as leaders through the Harvard Graduate School of Education course, Leading Schools. We have built strong relationships in our monthly PLCs. We have become and will continue to be a united family. At this time, I would like to invite 2020 PMP graduate Tara Spellman to share the impact PMP has had in her newly appointed role as the principal of Taylor Ranch.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Madam Chair, Dr. Asplin, Mr. Hardy. It is honestly a pleasure to be here tonight as a new principal of Taylor Ranch School. The Preparing New Principals program was very comprehensive. It provided study designed to give aspiring school leaders the tools that they needed to be effective and high-performing school administrators. The experiences provided in this program required us to engage and immerse ourselves in the Florida leadership standards. Each of us created an in-depth portfolio documenting our direct involvement with all components of school leadership. The one element of the portfolio that was the most beneficial was the reflective practice. After each documentation, each of us had to really think about and reflect and write on how that experience changed us, maybe changed our mindset, or what it meant to us as a leader. In some cases, it wouldn't change your thinking, but in many times, it did have an effect and shift our thinking. This experience taught us that effective principals need to be constant analysts of all types. We need to be change agents and at all times be highly ethical. That was a very important learning that was woven throughout the entire course. In addition to the boots on the groundwork, we also participated in leadership book studies, shadowing experiences with current principals, the Harvard coursework that Carol mentioned, working with all levels of district leadership, getting to know everybody's roles, and building relationships with one another. That is probably a second high point of this program. Through the program, you begin to know everybody, their strengths, what they bring to the table, and appreciate unique experiences. So in this role now, I find myself weekly calling on my mentors, my colleagues, always so amazed at how open they are to helping, to supporting, and sharing with me. This year, as you know, has not been the year that I thought it would be as a new principal, not what I envisioned it to be, but all that I have hoped for. I've had to implement large-scale changes in instructional delivery, in the physical environment, and in the scheduling of students and teachers. I've had to work hard on building positive communication with parents, students, and staff in a time of uncertainty and stress. Nothing could have prepared me or any of us for this year, but the knowledge gained through the Leadership Academy and the Preparing New Principals program provides a strong foundation on leading through times of change while remaining focused on students' academic and social-emotional well-being. I feel honored to have worked with Dr. Wendy Katz and Dr. Carol K. Brown as the leaders of PMP. Their guidance and insight have been invaluable to not only me, but to all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to celebrate each of our graduates. When I call your name, please stand. Erica Brusso. Jessica Fusi. Mindy Long. Stacy Tinkus. Cameron Parker. Scott Parrish. Greg Rump. Tara Spillman. Heather Wasserman. And Ryan Shirley is not here with us tonight. He and his wife welcomed a new baby boy yesterday, baby Noah, so he's not here with us tonight, but I want to make sure that we acknowledge Ryan Shirley. Thank you.
Dr. Aspen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, just very, very quickly, congratulations to those of you who are here tonight and for going through our leadership program. You are outstanding leaders, and these are our future principals, and they're going to take us well into the future. So I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work that you do every single day, and I also want to thank Carol K. Brown for all the work that you do in helping us with our leaders. So thank you all very much, and good luck to all of you.
For the final presentation this evening, would Steve Cantis come to the podium? I thought they were taking it over there. That's why I went. That's why I started.
Good job. Congratulations. Good job.
So an incredible group of future principals for us here, and congratulations to all of them. It's a lot of hard work, and we're extremely proud of that work. So good evening, School Board Chair, Mrs. Zucker, School Board members, Dr. Asplin, Mr. Hardy. I'm honored to introduce to all of you a very special group of students this evening, our district's 23 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. For context, over 1.5 million juniors and about 21,000 high schools across the country entered the National Merit Scholarship Program this year. Of that, only 16,000 students were selected as semifinalists. That's 16,000 of the 1.5 million. Our National Merit semifinalists will learn in February if they'll be part of the 15,000 students advancing to the finalist level. Students enter the National Merit program by taking the preliminary SAT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, better known as the PSAT. All of our students in Sarasota County take that as a sophomore, but juniors can take it to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship process. And by meeting published program entry and participation requirements. The expectations are extremely high, and the testing is very rigorous. It's a tremendous accomplishment to be selected as a semifinalist in this renowned program, and we are thrilled to celebrate the hard work of these students, as well as their families and their teachers and the school level administrators. Unfortunately, due to health and safety restrictions, we are not able to host all of our semifinalists and their families in the chambers this evening. Instead, we put together a video tribute as our way of congratulating these students on their stellar achievement. Please turn your attention to one of the presentation screens, and thank you. Zephania Malka, MJ Bailey, Emily Benson, Nicholas Budakow, Kumil Edwards, Pranya Govindu, Neil Gupta, James Hugglestone, Grace Gion, Kieran Cadiella, Grace Kim, Samuel Klopp, Julia Corlocos, Finnegan Lear, Joseph Liu, Nicholas Paredes, Nora Pavlish, Samantha Sania, Roatram Upendra, Sawyer Dunn Matrulo, Ashley Hodges, Haley Wood, Michael Maloney, So I hope their parents and the students were watching online tonight. Hopefully in the spring, when we announce the finalists for the National Merit Scholarship, we'll bring them back in person, and we'll bring them right into the chamber. So congratulations to our National Merit semifinalists, and thank you for the time tonight.
I'd just like to say congratulations to all of our semifinalists, and I look forward to seeing our finalists next year. I know how difficult it is to become a National Merit finalist, so congratulations to everyone. Dr. Asplin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, students hopefully are watching tonight, and parents as well. As your superintendent, I'm very, very proud of you. Congratulations. I know it's a lot of hard work, and you are very hardworking students. So again, congratulations, and we are definitely proud of you.
Dr. Asplin?
Yes, ma'am. We have a special presentation tonight. we have two of our board members who will be leaving us. This is their last board meeting, and that's Mr. Robinson and Ms. Zucker. And just wanted to recognize them. And first of all, Mr. Robinson, I do want to tell you that I appreciate getting to know you this year. I know we met 4 years ago briefly, and we spent a good amount of time one-on-one this year. And I do appreciate our conversations. And I do want to recognize too a couple of things. I know that at least I've heard, because I've only been here a couple months, but I know that that you have spent time as custodian of a day during the day. You've been a bus driver for the day. You've worked in food service for the day, and I know that you committed your paycheck back to the district. So that's fantastic, and I know that you also sponsor a gift every year for the Employee of the Year. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your commitment and your service to our students in our district. So I appreciate that.
Eric, would you like to speak?
No, I'm fine.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Well, it has been a pleasure serving with you for 4 years. As Dr. Asplin mentioned, there is so much that you have done that oftentimes doesn't make the papers, and that you truly have a focus and passion for our students and the staff that makes the mission of ensuring all kids in our Sarasota County have access to a quality education. And so, at the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you've done and for your commitment and for your generosity, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, thank you for your service. And although we've had our ups and downs, I think we've had probably more ups than downs. And I do want to wish you well in your future endeavors. Good luck to you, Eric. And thank you for your service.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, Eric, I've never questioned your love of students, and I've never questioned the commitment that you had to make our school district better, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your generosity, for your hard work, and for really being there and proving time and again that you really got to know people at every level of the school district. And so I know that you won't be a stranger. You'll be around. So I just want to thank you again, because I know you've worked hard and you've been a great asset to us.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I do want to be remiss. Thank you for fellow board members, but I do want to thank my wife and my children. Thank you.
I would like to thank you also, Eric. I know you and I have not seen eye to eye, but I'd like to thank you for your service and for your donations that you've made to the various entities that you have been involved with. I know you were very key in helping the students who couldn't pay for their lunches at the end of the year, so they were clear. Thank you really for serving.
All right, and obviously our second person is Ms. Zucker. As you know, she's actually retiring, and we will definitely miss her. And I want to say, again, it's been a short time of getting to know you, Ms. Zucker, and I have to say I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you. And again, our one-on-one conversations in the office there, and a couple times at lunch, I believe, and it's just been a pleasure to get to know you. And I know that you've been serving our district for 22 years, and so I know it's very difficult for you to step down at this point. And a couple of things I just wanted to bring to your attention. Ms. Zucker was involved on the State Juvenile Justice Board and served on and was president of both Florida School Board Association and the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, and has received many, many community awards. And that's just, obviously 22 years is a long time. That's just a few things, but I know that everybody here knows that you are very dedicated to our district, very dedicated to our students, and just committed overall as an advocate of our students. And we really appreciate that, and we wish you the best We wish you the best in retirement. And again, thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, Dr. Asplin. Mrs. Brown?
I too want to thank you, Caroline. Our time goes, before we were both elected in August of 2006, and we've served together ever since that. But we knew each other in the 90s, you were on the school board and I was in the legislature. We've become friends, but friends at an arm's length to some extent because of we always can't get together. But I would hope that now that we're not on the school board together, that we can take this friendship to another level so we can meet and enjoy each other's company on a more personal level, and that we can have open discussions about things that I know you care about. And I just know all the years that you've put in, and there isn't anyone in this district that doesn't understand how much you care about making sure that what we do is right for the kids, for our employees, and really for public schools in general in our district and in the state and the country. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
I also want to thank you for your service. It never ceases to amaze me when we would have new principals and you would talk about how you knew them when they were a teacher and you saw them grow and you knew the history of them and the relationships you had with them. So it was more frequent than not of the relationships that you had with various staff and parents in our community. So that's going to be truly missed on the school board. So thank you.
Mrs. Goodwin?
Well, life is about relationships and trust and transitions, and we've kind of got all of that going here today. I've known and worked with Mrs. Zucker for 10 years on the school board, but I knew her for 10 years before I got on the school board. I carried and waved a sign for her on the street corners 10 years before. I've always had a passion for education, and she does too, and we've attended several conferences and things together and have become, close friends and allies. And yes, I agree that it will be much easier with you not on the school board to be a good friend, but you'll never be out of my life. She has, always been someone who has promoted public schools, and in this day and age, we really have to band together because there's such an affront now to really marginalize public education for what we call choice, which is a great concern to me and a great concern to Mrs. Zucker. So we have that in common, and we've had great fun, and I cherish all of our work in Tallahassee and in various organizations and so forth. But as I say, it's been a relationship of trust and a relationship of really seeing the fact that you always were there, you always were ready to go, you were always here at the school district working behind the scenes with the schools, with the school board itself, and never once, no matter what was going on in your life, be it good or bad or illness or whatever, that you didn't, get out of a sick bed to go to Tallahassee and lobby when you just had heart issues. And I'm like, I can't believe that we did this, but it all worked out well. But it is a great honor to have served with you. You're a great friend. I love you, and thanks for everything. Thanks for the memories.
Thank you, Jane. Mrs. Ziegler?
Well, that's a tough one to follow, Mrs. Goodwin. No, to echo, I mean, there is no question that you are absolutely passionate about the role that you play here, and for 22 years, that service is tremendous, and so I thank you for that. I think what Mr. Robinson said is so true, is that even as a new board member coming in here, you have been a part of this district and community in such a profound way for so many years that you have made a significant impact. So thank you again, and best wishes to you.
Thank you. I just want you to know that I'm not going away. I'm going to help with the referendum in 2022, I believe. That referendum is up. And I plan on, well, I won't be on the school board itself. I plan on not attending meetings, but I plan on still working for children within Sarasota County. I will stay on the state advisory group for juvenile justice. so I'm not going away. But what I did was I put together a little graph here that talks about what we have accomplished as a school board during the periods that I served. So from 1992 to 2000, and then 2006 to 2020 right now. Northport High School was built. That was tough. Nobody wanted to build a high school in Northport because they didn't need one. They didn't have enough kids. Well, we got it. The rebuild of Riverview High School, that was a tremendous amount of pushback that I received from the community because they did not want to destroy a Rudolph building. Even though it was flooded all the time, they did not want to tear that down. They did not want to build a new high school, but we survived. We built a new high school. Brookside Middle School, Woodland Middle School, Heron Creek Middle School, Gulfgate Elementary. We built that one, and this was Janice Mee's baby. She did not want to destroy the trees that were on that property, so we had to build the school in the back behind the trees so that we didn't cut down trees. But we managed to do that. And then Southside Elementary School, then both Southside and Bayhaven School of Basics Plus, Mrs. Mee, we built them and renovated them, but Mrs. Mee went to Tallahassee and petitioned for them to become a historical, put on the historical register, and they were. Then that's why they cannot be touched. So we safeguarded both of those schools to stay in its original capacity. VOTEC, our Suncoast Technical College, as we now call it, it was vocational tech. VOTEC it was called, and it was seen as a place where kids go that can't do anything else. So with Frank Covet also was very instrumental in helping to push through the Sarasota Technical School, which was initially called Sarasota VOTEC. And now it's Sarasota, then it became Sarasota Technical School, and now it's Suncoast Technical College. And again, Frank Kovacs was a proponent, along with me, on that project. The Polytechnical High School, that's limited to 350 students. We built that during the same time. This is for people who don't think the board does anything, but all of this has to be approved to us. We need to know what it is we're doing. We need to know what we're approving. So SCC and the college in Northport, there's a partnership with the city of Northport to also build a library there. But the STC, that was another one. When I couldn't be there, my daughter would go to meetings for me to make sure that we were having the college built in Northport as well, because they needed things also. And it was a tendency to not, it's out of sight, out of mind, so you had to really stay focused, and that came to fruition. Brentwood, we rebuilt Brentwood. Sarasota High School, we rebuilt a good portion of Sarasota High School. And then now, this year, we were able to get the School Avenue closed. We have a partnership with Ringling College, and that was due to the efforts of Kathy Kleinlein, who was really very forefront, farsighted, and she saw the possible partnerships that we could have with Ringling College by taking over the old Sarasota High School. We built Oak Park School, and we put up the school. We have a school police department, which we didn't have, so we were instrumental in doing that. And the renovations for security, lockdown entrances, and fencing for every school, that was done under this board. Pineview was rebuilt, and that was a lot to do with, Lee Byron was the person who was instrumental in the beginning of building Pineview, because she saw what the students that attend Pineview, what their needs were, and they were not being met at the local schools. Laurel Nokomis was our first K-8, and that was a hassle because it was an elementary school. And we moved the elementary school, and they wanted their elementary school. And the middle school we had built already. So what we did was combine Venice Elementary, that wasn't called that. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's Laurel Nokomis now, and it's a K-8, and they said, you can't do a K-8 because the big kids will take care of, the big kids will be punishing the younger kids. So, but that didn't happen at all. What happened was that the older kids took their elementary kids under their wing and helped them. So that was a plus. We have the Venice High School, the Venice Theater partnership with the city of Venice. And then we have land purchases for a K-8 school out east, K-8 and a high school at Welland Park in Northport, K-5 land available to build several elementary schools in Northport. We passed 4 referendums, giving the district $60 million extra every year, which is how we can afford to pay the salaries that we do, and how we can afford to keep our community going and keep the arts and music in each one of our schools. We've been an A district since 2005, and the top it all for me is the expansion of Booker High School VPA Theater, an addition of the Black Box Theater, which nobody initially wanted to do. They didn't think it was worth it, that Booker didn't need it. It was fine as it was, but it wasn't, because they didn't have the capacity it needed to teach all of the students and to have the diversity that they have in the programs that they offer. So that's a splattering of what's been occurring over my lifetime with the Sarasota County school system. And I have to tell you that I came from welfare. I've had 4 stepfathers. I know you look at me and you think that I was born with a silver spoon, but I wasn't. And when I was in high school, I had to quit high school and go to night school because I had to go to work to help my family, because at that time welfare didn't allow you to have the luxury of staying home. So I went to night school for high school, and then I went to weekend college for Marymount College for Elizabeth Eaton for 2 years and Marymount College for 4 years before I got my degree, 8 years on the weekends, traveling throughout the country. I've had a great life. I want to thank all of you who have supported me. I greatly appreciate all of you. I love this community. I have no intentions of leaving the community because it's just where my heart is. I have 2 grandchildren that grew up at Booker High School, and that's why Booker High School is so close to my heart. And I'll never forget what caused my drive to renovate Booker High School was my grandson came to me and told me it was 7 years ago, I'll never forget. He said, "Mimi, there's lights out in the theater and we can't replace the lights because we don't have any extra lights." I said, "You have no lights? Why can't you go out and buy a light?" "I don't know. I think it's a light bulb." He said, "Because they're special lights and they cost a lot of money and we just don't have that type of money." That's when I became invested in Booker High School and made sure that they had lights, and now making sure that they had their black box theater that they wanted and the renovation of their school so that's ADA compliant. So I have received so much from this district. I have received verification that as a human being and as a successful person who was involved in education for our youth here, which I'll still be involved with. So I'm very thankful for all of your support over the many years, over the 22 years it's been. I thank you all for all of your support. And I also thank my husband, Mike Zucker, who's in the audience here, who I always forget to thank. But I don't mean to, because without him, I couldn't do what I do. He took care of everything in the house so that I could be out doing all of this. So again, thank you, Dr. Asplin. Thank you, all board members. It's been a ride. And I'll be 82 in January, so there is no way I couldn't run another campaign. I tried, but my grandson would not help me, neither would my children. They said, "We don't want you to die on us." But I'll still be around. I'm going to stay involved with the district and with our community. So thank you very much for all your support. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Brown, sorry.
You were laying out a lot of those accomplishments that the board did while you were on it, but there were 2 things that you did that you didn't mention in there, And one of them was taking over as chair of the Florida School Boards Association at a time when it was under attack from private interests. And like the special interests had taken out the incoming chair and chair-elect. So you stood up, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You are going to come under attack. But you stood up and you went forward on that. And you also did with the Consortium of Florida School Boards Association, and that represents those districts that provide closer to 80 or 90% of the funding from their own property tax. Basically, it's the property-rich counties, because we have some certain interests that we like to protect when we go to Tallahassee. And both of those things being the Florida School Boards Association representing all of the school districts in Florida, and then the consortium could some be like herding cats, but you took on both of those at a really troubling time. And I just shake my head. I don't know how you could do all that, but you did. And so you've done a lot of things here in this community, but you've done a lot for the school districts in the state of Florida, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Okay, so moving on now to the superintendent's report.
Yep.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, good evening, board members. Just had a few items here to share with you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to the entire community, all of our parents, all of our employees, board members, everyone, for working with us and being patient through this tropical storm issue. I also want to thank Jody Dumas and his group, and then also Ed McCrane, who is our emergency management chief here in Sarasota, who provides us information probably every 3 hours. It was a very difficult decision, looking at all those numbers, the wind speeds and rain and everything else throughout the weekend, and then having to make a decision right at the end of the Sunday night there. And I know it came in kind of late for everybody, but I appreciate your patience so much in that. And I do think we did the right thing. It was an ugly day out there, especially on the south end of our district. The winds and rains coming out of Charlotte County there. I think we really needed to do that. So again, thank you very much for your patience. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, we'll not have to make that decision ever again.
Are you well? You're well.
You like Thursday or Friday?
I know, the one that's out there. I don't know where it's going, but hopefully not to Sarasota. Also, I wanted to just mention, I know there's been talk out there, and people have been sending emails and asking questions about, what does it look like going into second semester? Where we have our concurrent teaching and learning going on right now, where teachers they have some students on remote on their computer, and they have some students in front of them face-to-face in the classroom. It's very, very difficult. And I just want to say, again, our teachers are amazing. You have no idea how amazing our teachers are. They are tremendous, and they do a fantastic job. I know it's very, very stressful. At the same time, I know we have families with students who, even if they wanted to send their students in to the classroom face-to-face, there's some situations, especially medical situations, where they just can't, and they're going to be remote. And so what I want you to know is that the Commissioner of Education is in the process of creating another emergency order. The one that we have right now that created the plan for this first semester ends December 31st. And Commissioner Corcoran, he has been currently working collaboratively with educators, educational leaders, and he said that the new emergency order will be given to us before Thanksgiving. In the meantime, we in our leadership teams here at the district office have been talking and trying to create some plans. We have a meeting with our principals on Friday to continue our conversation with our principals. I know they've been talking with our teachers. And here in Sarasota County, we're trying to come up with a great plan. At the same time, we do not have the new emergency order yet. So we need to be careful with that. At the beginning of this school year, back in July, it was actually June, July, there was a plan that was created. It was an excellent plan. It was an A day, B day plan, and some other variations of a hybrid plan that I know Laura Kingsley and her group, and Steve Cantis and Chris Renoff, everybody worked together. Mitzi Corcoran, she was the interim. Everybody worked together and came up with a fantastic plan. And then July 6th came, and Mr. Corcoran had an emergency order, trying to do the right thing. I know he's trying to do the right thing, and he had the emergency order 5 days a week. So they had to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. And so it kind of looked like it was rushed, but it really wasn't rushed. They had a great plan together. They just had to throw it in the trash can and start all over again. So we right now are working on our plans without the new emergency order. So I haven't put anything out yet because we don't have that. I don't want to have to scratch it. So as soon as we get that, hopefully before Thanksgiving, that's what Mr. Corcoran said, we will finish our plans up, and hopefully by the end of November, beginning of December, we'll have some sort of plan together ready to go, so that when we get back from winter break, we will know exactly what we are doing. In the meantime, from the information I have so far coming out of Tallahassee, it would probably look a lot like what we're doing already. I know we want to encourage students to come back face-to-face because that is the best way for students to learn. I truly believe that. And right now in Sarasota County, we do continue, and we have been encouraging students to come back face-to-face. At the same time, I don't think there's going to be a mandate for that in case you need to stay home. And so that's what I think is going to happen at this point. But again, I don't have the EO in front of me, and it could change. It could be different than what I just told you. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on that. Also, just a few other things really quickly. First of all, as you know, Veterans Day is tomorrow, and we have a lot of different things going on in the school district. And just as an example, at Toledo Bay Elementary, door decorating contest, writing cards and letters to our veterans, patriotic speeches by students, patriotic poems and skits by students. That's all happening across the entire school district. Also, we have National Education Week, which is November 16th through the 20th. And it was first recognized in 1921, and National Education Week's purpose is to present everyone with an opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring that every student receives a quality education. So let's keep that in mind. Also on Friday, that's World Kindness Day. So it's a day to intend to highlight the importance of being kind to others. And then we have our United Way campaign. That is kicked off actually today, and it runs through December 11th. And we're pleased and proud to partner with both the United Way North and South County networks to mobilize the caring power of our employees to assist with the hardest hit portion of the population during our pandemic. Our United Way campaign will officially kick off, as I said, today and run through December 11th. United Way Suncoast and United Way South Sarasota County work to address specific needs identified within their network areas, and we ask that you consider either what programs you want to have a heart for advocating and or to give back to a certain zip code in which you work or live. And again, that started today. Also, we have a Holocaust proclamation from Governor Ron DeSantis, and I just want to take a moment and read that. This is from Governor DeSantis. These glasses. Holocaust Education Week in Florida. Whereas the Holocaust was the state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of European Jews by Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945, in which 6 million Jews were murdered. And whereas we also commemorate other victims of the Nazi regime who suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments. And whereas we, the people of the state of Florida, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny, and actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom in a just society. Whereas Holocaust Education Week, as part of Florida's House Bill 1213, educational instruction of historic events provides Floridians with a valuable opportunity to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need to respect all people. And whereas Holocaust Education Week in Florida is an opportunity to honor the memory of the victims and survivors of the Holocaust, as well as the rescuers and liberators, and further proclaim that we, the citizens of the state of Florida, should work to promote human dignity and confront hate whenever and wherever it occurs. Now, therefore, I, Ron DeSantis, Governor of the state of Florida, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all observing November 9th through the 13th, 2020, as Holocaust Education Week in Florida. And just so you know, we have different things that are going on throughout our district. I'm not going to read those to you, but we can post those, or if you call or email, I can send this to you. But we do have different schools across our district doing many different things to recognize Holocaust Week in Florida. Also, our SCTA bargaining agreement. As you know, we reached an agreement with our union. I want to thank our union leadership, Barry Dubin, Pat Gardner, and also our district team, our district negotiation team, and also our school board for collaboratively working together and reaching a bargaining agreement. And that is what will be voted upon in new business later tonight, in which Mr. Hardy will let us know what all the details are there. And then we have a parent and family engagement series. It's great stuff. You need to, you know, if you look online, you'll be able to see this, but there's a series organized by Fiddler staff and Brian Hirsch, linking the arts community to families across our county of Sarasota. And some of those are, there's classes that are online that are really nice. Van Weasel Family Literacy Night, which is tomorrow, starts on November 12th. The ABCs of Behavior, that was, actually that was yesterday. Art Break with Ringling, that's on the 13th. Then we have The Anxious Child on the 16th, and Moat Marine Laboratory on the 19th. Keeping Our Kids Safe online the 23rd, Growing Socially, Emotionally Healthy Kids on the 30th, and Instructional Practices on December 7th. I felt like I'd be remiss if I did not let you all know about that. And then we also have, if you look at the screen there, we have a People magazine article in which one of our classrooms and our teachers was in People magazine, and this article was regarding the classroom setup for COVID, and it's very interesting. Southside Elementary School teacher Missy Wyndham wanted to make sure the pandemic didn't ruin the magic of kindergarten. So the shields surrounding the desks of her 15 students became windshields. Taking her cue from similar projects, she transformed each desk into a homemade miniature Jeep. The child-sized fleet made of colorful vinyl was an immediate hit in her classroom. And I thought that was very interesting. And our teachers, like I said, are amazing, doing great things for our students and helping them, especially through this time of COVID. And then the last item I have, I know you didn't think I was going to get to the last item, but our last item is our COVID update. And I have, let's see, Chuck Henry is on the line, I believe, who's going to help us with that. And he is from the health department, but just to give you some numbers from our dashboard, just to reiterate what some of those are. Right now, currently we have current staff who are positive, 13 total. We have current students who are positive, 46 total. Current staff who are quarantined, 40. And current students who are quarantined, 490. Overall, since the beginning of school, total staff positive was 52. Total students positive, 211. Total staff who were quarantined since the beginning of school, 194. And total students quarantined since the beginning of school, 2,418. And I know Jody Dumas and his group and the health department have really worked hard to help us through this. And I have Chuck Henry on the line now, and I'd like for him to give us a general update countywide for our board members so that they can understand how we're doing outside of our school system. So, Mr. Henry, can you give us that update?
I certainly can. Thank you, Dr. Asplin, and good evening to board members. This is just a brief update on what's happening across our community as we have expected to see as the fall time returns and our community becomes more active as more businesses open back up and the economy gets to moving. We're seeing a slight increase in overall cases across our community. That percent positivity that for our community was down on 31 August when school started at 2.81%. The 14-day positivity number that we track has now crept back up to about 5.36. We continue to watch that closely. We're not alarmed by that at this point. Just for comparison, if we go back to our highest point, which occurred in mid-July, at that time we were up to almost 11%, 10.87% for the 14-day positivity. So we'll continue to watch that. And, community-wide, I remind people one of our big goals is to watch our healthcare system and work to ensure that it doesn't become overwhelmed as we monitor these cases. And so we do track that very closely. We also track what's happening across our school district, which is obviously very important to the school board and all the parents. I do want to take a moment and say the team there at the school, Mr. Dumas and his staff and team, have done just a masterful job of keeping track of what's happening in the schools and relaying information to my staff at the health department so they can work collaboratively to do our best to keep everyone safe. I think overall, and I've shared this with Dr. Asplin, the amount of illness circulating in the schools and students given the size of the district continues to run slightly less than the overall community, and that's wonderful news. And I just applaud the work that continues to go on there, not only with identifying students, but in keeping the environments clean and healthy and encouraging students to practice good social distancing, wear masks, and of course, stay home when they're sick. That's what I have for an update. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, I have a question. I've been watching the national numbers, and they're quite scary. I mean, like, the numbers were so high in July when we were at 11%, and nationally, it's twice as high as it was back in July. I mean, will we be seeing numbers like that here, or if we continue to follow this, I mean, will we still stay below that number? I mean, I don't want to see double what we were in July.
Well, thank you for that question, and certainly we don't want to see that either. I don't have a crystal ball, but we continue to watch the numbers daily and look at what's happening across our community, both in our hospitals, in our elder care facilities, in our schools, obviously. And as we get indications that things are increasing, we begin implementing whatever measures are necessary to try our best to control that. As everyone, we're very hopeful that we will get vaccines approved by the end of the year and begin the process of getting those out, probably initially to our healthcare workers and first responders, and then to our vulnerable population, and then out to everyone else. So I think we're hopeful that we will turn a corner as the next year moves through spring and into the summer.
And on a follow-up, we've been getting some complaints from some parents and even some teachers about the numbers that are having to be quarantined and the length of time they have to be quarantined. Or, like you quarantine somebody that came in contact with somebody, but, they could have gotten it like 3 days or 4 days or 5 days before, but they have to be quarantined for 2 weeks from the time you quarantine them. So there's some concern about that maybe we're quarantining people for too long. Could you discuss on the importance of having to quarantine for that long a period, or is there any way that we could shorten that you've learned?
So happy to discuss that, and thank you. There's a distinction between what we call isolation and quarantine. And isolation is the term we use when someone is actually ill and is tested positive, and they need to isolate during the period that they're infectious to others, which typically is 10 days after the onset of their illness, or if they're asymptomatic, meaning having no symptoms, it's 10 days after their positive test. It's different for those that are direct contacts of those positive cases, and that becomes a 14-day period, and we call that quarantine. And the quarantine is 14 days from the point of that last contact. And the reason we do that is that the incubation period for COVID-19 can be as short as 2 days or as long as 14 days. And while the majority of people probably get sick somewhere in the middle, in the 5 to 7 day range, they could get sick all the way through the end of that 14-day period, which is why it's really important that we quarantine people and if they stay home and avoid contact with others during that period. The importance of that is because with this particular virus, as with many viral illnesses, individuals begin shedding the virus, meaning they become infectious to others, up to 48 hours before their symptoms begin. So if we didn't quarantine students and they continue to come to school, they could become infectious to others up to 2 days before their symptoms began. And even if they did their best to stay home as soon as they were sick, they may have already exposed a larger group of students. So that's the process we've been following. And as I said earlier, I think it's been very successful. There are a number of studies going on nationally and with the Centers for Disease and Control to look at various options to perhaps shorten that. But the guidance that's out right now from our national level leadership and state level leadership is to stick with the 10-day isolation for those that are ill and the 14-day quarantine for those that are direct contacts.
But if a person tests positive, now we're talking to students, if a student tests positive, and then you go in, you do the contact tracing for the students that were by him. But if that student tests positive, and is isolated, his family members should be also, correct? Or at least quarantined?
Yes, direct household members of a positive case would also be considered close contacts and would need to quarantine for the same 14-day period after their last contact. Now, some families are able to separate within their household, isolate the positive individual in one area of the house and protect the rest of the family. Others are not, and so then if you're not able to separate, then the 14-day quarantine wouldn't start until the individual that's ill completes their infectious period. So it could turn into a longer period than 14 days in that case.
Thank you.
Mrs. Goodwin.
In looking at our caseload and cases of COVID in Sarasota County for many months, Manatee County exceeded us in deaths and positive cases and hospitalizations, but that is not the case any longer. We now have more total deaths in Sarasota County than Manatee, and we have many more hospitalizations than Manatee, which frightens me a little bit because today their caseload was up higher than ours, but for many months we had, 100, 200 fewer deaths than Manatee had, but that we have surpassed them now. So I'm very concerned, and of course we all have concerns about the spread because Manatee and Sarasota work back and forth across county lines so much. Is there any concern on your part about those numbers being higher now than Manatee?
Well, I don't look at it with concern about where our numbers are at compared to Manatee, and we do look at data across our region, meaning Charlotte, Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto. And our region as a whole, maybe DeSoto is an exception, has a higher number of individuals at risk, and remember those most at risk for negative outcomes from COVID-19 are those that are older than 65 and older, and those with underlying health conditions. And in fact, when I look at the data going all the way back to the beginning of this outbreak, the largest majority of those hospitalized, I think it's around 70, 75 or 76% of those hospitalized are over the age of 55, and about 76% of the deaths have occurred in those over 75. So clearly that's the group that we need to protect as we continue moving forward in this environment. And in fact, Sarasota County has 130 licensed elder care facilities, and we have a team of epidemiologists and staff, just like we do with the school, that works directly and focuses only on those elder care facilities to try to assist them with cases that they have and protect the other residents.
And one other question, is there any merit on your part in our getting the 15-minute tests made available to our schools? I know that Lee County has just received, I think, 2,000 of those from their health department to use in the school district, and I think it would be great if we had something that was a little faster in determining the COVID cases.
So we are working with your school team and looking at what are the options for implementing those. They do have a little bit different staffing requirement than the test that we're using now. And we're getting a pretty rapid turnaround on our molecular tests. Those are going up to the state lab, and for most individuals, if we take their sample today, they'll get their results back by the next evening. That's certainly a lot more than the 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But we believe there's a little bit higher accuracy with those. Nonetheless, there's a lot of value in considering various strategies to utilize those resources that are being made available.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Henry. I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Thank you very much. And Ms. Goodwin, we'll definitely look into those tests and talk about that in our meetings. And then the last thing, just quickly, is I know the next item is speakers, and I just wanted to remind everyone, as speakers come forward tonight, please be civil and respectful to the speakers and to the listeners. Please refrain from personal attacks and stick to the issues. Our administrative team will be listening and taking notes so that we can understand the concerns being brought forward. We need to understand that as public school district, we serve a diverse community, and we need to embrace our differences, set a good example for our young people, and kindly work together in a caring, respectful environment to deliver the best education possible for our students. So I appreciate that in advance. Thank you.
Okay. Now we will begin the hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to begin to summarize. You must stop speaking when the buzzer rings, or the mics will be cut off. To the audience, please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with a speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. Please note, the board members are here to listen. This is not time for debate, and the board will not take any formal action on your comments unless your comments relate to an agenda item. If your comments relate to a non-agenda item, the board may refer the matter to staff for a report prior to the board's next meeting. The school board is committed to civility and decorum in the conduct of its meetings. Please assist us in maintaining a civil and constructive meeting by confining your comments to the issues and refrain from intemperate or rude remarks. Per statute 1001.372(3), anyone causing a distraction will be first given a warning, and if the conduct does not stop, you will be removed from the chambers. Board members have received the online emails comments prior to this meeting, so we have them online before. So I'm used to wetting my finger before I can turn a page. And it's
Mrs. Zach, can I just make a brief comment based on those emails that we received? If there is someone whose child is in a charter school as there was in the comments and statements that we had. The charter schools each have their own independent boards. So we do not address the issues of the charter schools. We're very friendly with and talk to charter schools very frequently, but they have their own governing board, just as we are here. So we really are not in charge of what happens in the charter schools in terms of governance. So I just would want to make that clear, because I think last time we had some people to speak who were in charters, and we do have comments tonight. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay, we will begin with Roberto Argudes. Please pronounce your name for me.
Argudes.
Argudes, thank you.
Good evening. I'm a parent who moved to Sarasota in large part for the schools, and I want to thank you for your hard work in maintaining a high standard of education here. I'm here to talk about the issue of how and what we teach in our schools in terms of Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ issues. This is something that I would like to address in terms of the fallacy of two sides or false balance. This is when two sides of an issue are presented as equal and opposite, even when one side lacks factual or scientific support or any ethical justification. This creeps into schools quite a bit, just as you might see it in the news a lot. And we see that with the objection raised to teaching even a nominal segment on Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ rights. It is factually supported that systemic discrimination against these groups does grave physical, moral, and economic harm to these groups. And it is therefore ethically essential to listen to them and understand the problem and seek to improve it. And like many things, that improvement has to begin with our schools. That is not the case for the argument of the opposition, which grounds its objections on vague claims about educational standards, what properly belongs at homes, and specific efforts to intimidate school teachers and officials by demanding names to feed to always angry internet mobs. In 1965, it would have been appropriate to teach students about Selma and the civil rights movement of that time, and to give them the facts and the necessary context to understand those events. In 1969, it would have been appropriate to teach students about what was really behind the Stonewall riots and why a riot may not be what it initially seems in terms of it being a lawless act by citizens so much as a lawless act by the authorities. In 2020, it is essential that our students have the opportunity to discuss BLM and LGBTQ issues as rights movements, and the BrainPub materials are a good start. We owe it to our students to connect the civil rights battles of the past and present together without giving bigotry and its polite enablers equal and opposite space to pretend systemic discrimination does not exist when its evidence is all around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Cody?
Good evening. Mr. Robinson, you'll be missed. Ms. Zucker, you will be missed as well. So didn't really have much to say tonight, just kind of reiterating what a few of you have said. When you're passionate about something, you take action. This is me, a parent, passionate about education for my son, education for all children, equal and fair, but again, letting parents have their rights as well. Parents are supposed to be helping the children and helping the teachers. And I don't know why that's an issue here, that parents want to help. Sorry, the mask keeps falling down. That parents want to help, want to get involved, and want to do whatever we can to work with teachers and the staff. I've sent several emails, and the last one after the last board meeting, you saw I came back. I had to pick up my son, and I came back, and he wanted to see what you guys did up here. And I thought that was really cool that he wanted to see. He wanted to know who made the choices for him. And that's a learning tool, but that was my learning tool to give him. Not yours, not a teacher's, not a psychologist. It was my tool. And that's where I think we're having the issue here. We don't want to be against you. We don't want to be against anybody else. Everybody matters. Everybody has rights, and we want to work together. The other thing is, the teachers. We've heard about all these emails you've gotten about, we want the mask mandate and we want this. I hope you can provide some proof of the quantity, because I haven't seen it yet. Actually paid for public records, quite expensive, actually, and I haven't seen the proof of these mask mandates being requested by these teachers. So hopefully we can provide that, because I haven't seen it. So, and I guess we should, I don't know who we talked to about the public records report and how many emails have been requested. So anyways, we're wanting to work with you. Help us out. Hopefully you follow through with the email I requested about working with breaks and how to structure something for the students and the teachers, because it's not just teachers, it's staff, all staff, lunchroom staff, janitorial staff, everybody. So I hope we can work together and stop being divided. You can see it's divided, but at least tonight there's not yelling and screaming. It's amazing. Just work together. That's it.
Thank you. Amy Grotz.
It's Groats, Amy Groats.
Gross.
I still believe we have the right to breathe freely without obstruction. We have the right to wear a mask if we want to. No one has any authority over our bodies, and nothing supersedes our God-given rights. There are no kings or queens in the United States that can make decrees that we must obey. We have checks and balances in this country that prevent tyrants from ruling over us. Mandates and policies are not laws. Laws are written by legislative branches after public hearings and much debate. Laws cannot violate our constitutional rights. Neither can school policies, yet we are living under a policy that does just that. Staff members are reluctant to speak out against your policies for obvious reasons. But that works in your favor. You get your way, and it falsely appears to the public as though you have the full support of the staff. Make no mistake, silence is not approval. Staff members who oppose you have no way to express their opposition because you have suppressed them by not allowing it to be done anonymously. Meanwhile, staff members are the ones who do your bidding and conduct your experiments. Unfortunately, there will be short-term and long-term effects of this experiment, and when children begin to experience unwanted consequences from the mass, we will blame you. There's no doubt that more lawsuits will be forthcoming as the future reveals health problems in young children caused by your long-term mask experiment. Just so the public knows, this experiment is being conducted on children as young as 3. I encourage you to investigate the 10 elements of the Nuremberg Code. Decide for yourself if what you are doing is ethical. The first element states, voluntary consent is essential. Do your own research, read all 10 elements of the Nuremberg Code. It may surprise you. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Ellis, and on deck is Elena Martinez.
Hi there. I'd like to read the Minnesota Anti-Racism Coalition petition again to Sarasota County School District leadership. Dear Superintendent Asplin and school board members, school systems around the nation are seeing the need for a greater understanding of and deliberate action to address the sources of racism and racial inequities within their schools. They are making bold institutional commitments to an in-depth review of their policies and procedures and investing in anti-racism education for students, teachers, administrators, and staff for the long run. In Sarasota, recurring tensions around race and persistent racial inequality indicate that the district needs to join these school systems around the nation. School systems that tackle these issues will be the educational leaders of the future. The same educational systems that have created the school-to-prison pipeline for students of color are graduating white students with little or no understanding of the source of our country's racial divide, the history of the oppression of people of color, or the nature of systemic racism and white power. This academic deficiency of white students in understanding the history and manifestations of racism has had a profound impact on how our nation functions. It has led to violence against people of color and amplified division and intolerance in our nation. As other school systems organize to make anti-racist education a core competency of their systems, Sarasota County School District must begin the transformation necessary to sustain their A+ rating as a leading school district. School leaders know there is opportunity for improvement in racial equity in order to eliminate persistent racial gaps in performance and educational outcomes, racial disparities in discipline, and racialized opportunity gaps in the district. To that extent, and based on the best practices being shared by leading systems about the methods for transforming a school, we petition the school board to do the following. 1, establish a racial equity and inclusion committee. 2, invest in anti-racism and implicit bias training. 3, recruit and retain Black, Indigenous, and people of color educators, administrators, and staff. 4, invest in the development of student support networks. 5, institute a culturally responsive and anti-racist curriculum. 6, ensure equitable access to educational opportunities and honors programs. And the petition goes, into a lot of depth about each one of these things. So if it needs to be provided to anyone, we can do that. Just let us know, and thank you.
Thank you. Elena Martinez. And on deck is Jimmy DePriest.
Good evening. My name is Elena Martinez. I am a mother, and I am also the founder of the Leaders' Rights Organization, an activist group here in Sarasota. So I have 3 children. I've spoken about them before, and we conducted a conversation where we talked about the differences of people. And I asked my children, ages 13, 10, and my 2-year-old, he's always saying stuff. But I asked them, what does it mean to be different? And my son started to give examples. He said, well, I'm different than the people I see on TV. I'm different than the people that I read about in the books. And that, of course, as a mom, broke my little heart, because I felt like he didn't see any resemblance of himself anywhere. So anyways, I wrote this and I'll share that, but I just wanted to give that little piece. So our history books are filled with identities that portray history and present times as filtered, undervalued images of Black America. I do not believe that it is possible to live in the United States without encountering incidents of racism. These encounters can be seen in news, the supermarket, jobs, and even social settings. The key to eliminating hatred and racism is education. When a child learns something new that excites them or pushes their imagination, they enter their homes with curiosity and questions, creating a place of conversation and potentially fostering the principle that we are all one in the eyes of humanity. Teaching actual facts about Black America and other races could potentially dismantle the misunderstandings, xenophobia, and even war. Learning about Black history fosters cultural appreciation for all students. We may not be able to erase history, but we can heal through knowledge and education. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy DePriest, and on deck is Carita, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Godshi? Okay. Go ahead.
I'm here today to request that the school board express explicit condemnation for the alt-right hate groups which have come to these meetings to intimidate and harass marginalized students who are fighting for their rights and trying to make their voices heard. The members of the school board should be using their platform and power to express disdain for white supremacist terrorist groups and the spread of their vile and genocidal ideologies, especially to youth who are at an impressionable and potentially volatile point in their psychological development. Students who might be feeling angry, isolated, and misunderstood should not be turning to a group of middle-aged white men that have no other intention than to turn them into a politically mobilized Nazi. At our protest at Riverview High School, a white nationalist hate group known as the Proud Boys passed out pamphlets to high schoolers with the phrase, "The West is best," a slogan created and used as propaganda by the KKK less than 50 years ago. Just because they aren't wearing KKK robes or Nazi armbands, the Proud Boys are no different than these historically known hate groups that have terrorized people of color across the nation. These organized terrorist factions have no values or philosophies behind them but racism in its crudest and most lethal form. If people of social and political authority do not make efforts to diminish the legitimacy and breach of hate groups into the socio-political and educational sphere, they are normalizing their presence and compliantly accepting the racist terror that these groups seek to enact. Hate groups like the Proud Boys will try to say that attempts to sequester the constant threat they pose to society is an attack on their right to free speech. However, from an ethical perspective focused on human rights, the restriction and damage that identity-based discrimination puts on victims of hate speech negates it as a valid or necessary form of political expression. The conservative group, Parents Fed Up, is caught in a delusional dichotomy about what political violence is just and unjust. That is so deeply deprived them of true freedom that they think the only way to exercise their rights is to intimidate people they have deemed to be other. They are accusing people who are fighting against racialized violence as being perpetrators of harm, when the very core of these people's message has been to end violence. Black Lives Matter and their supporters are convicted with the purpose of building community strength and protection by keeping each other safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Candida Guache, if you say your name, and on deck is Ali Abdel Odar.
It's Caridad Guanche. It's okay. You were close enough. Good evening, everyone. I come to you as a concerned citizen. Our school have an opportunity to make a difference now. If we take the opportunity together, we can teach children about diversity in a safe environment. Diversity training is not the enemy. In fact, it can help everyone feel included. Our school are diverse, and it's time we taught that. I took it upon myself to watch the Brain Pop video, and there was nothing offensive or not inappropriate in it. It showed reality that is happening in a way that children will understand. I'm not here to condemn anyone or how a parent wants to teach their children, but this is no different than the type of education we give children about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Frank and others. It's part of history, and looking back, we see where the world went wrong. In 50 years, what is happening now will be taught in school. Why not start now? Be part of the solution and teach our children empathy in real time. Furthermore, I've heard here some are comparing this subject like NRA, pro-choice, etc. But this is very different. This is about fundamental human rights, being Black, African American, even mixed. Isn't a choice, in fact, and it's a fact. And when we can start having these hard conversations, then and only then can we move forward and let's be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Ali Abdel, and on deck is Ruth Beltran.
Thank you very much. I want to begin by thanking Superintendent Asplin for reading out the statement on the Holocaust from Governor Ron DeSantis. It is incredibly important to study the Holocaust and how ordinary Germans ended up sitting silently and allowing such horrible acts to occur. I also hope, as our governor does, that studying this genocide will allow us to prevent these terrible acts from occurring. And I would also like to add that it is equally, perhaps more important, to critically study our own country's history without letting patriotism or nationalism get in the way of the facts. America is a country that was built on land conquered from a people that were systematically genocided. And the cultural genocide of Native American, it's not an event of the distant past. And indeed, America is not only built on stolen land, but it was also built by slave labor. An entire race of people brought to this country to make ultra profits for the rich, not only here, but all across the Americas. And there has never been a genuine confrontation and reconciliation for this history and the long-lasting effects of it. And that's what the Black Lives Matter movement ultimately is about. It's about trying to bring about racial justice and try to bring these issues to the forefront because Black people are still suffering today in many different ways. And the fact that we cannot teach about this movement in our schools because some people regard it as a hate group is completely absurd because, well, to put it quite simply, it's not a hate group, and that's built off of a false perception. And by not allowing teachers to teach about it and teach about what Black Lives Matter is, what it comes out of, it only further fuels this perception of Black Lives Matter as an illegitimate hate group. And I seriously hope that you reconsider what you're allowing to occur here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ruth Beltran, and then Jordan Cohn.
Hello, my name is Ruth Beltran. Dear school members, the inspiring James Baldwin once said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." It is time that we face the reality. Not the reality shared by all of us, but the sad reality, suffering, and racism suffered by Black and non-white students in this community and in this country. The Black liberation movement spans over centuries. The Black Lives Matter movement started 7 years ago. Both movements were born out of desperation, pain, unjustified killings, the disproportionate caging and criminalization, institutionalized racism and racist culture that expands to every fiber of our society, including at our schools, healthcare system, court systems, educational, workforce, labor, media, among others. This is the reality faced by Black, Indigenous, Brown students in your district. You, as educators, must face that reality with them. Let them know, loud and clear, that you are here to help them stop racism and change the world into a better place. The anti-bias training and the brain pop videos were steps in the right direction. I urge you, do not turn around now. Incorporate the demands detailed by the Minnesota Anti-Racism Coalition. Be outspoken and intentional in addressing racism. Let your non-white students know that you too, as the school board, will not be silent about their suffering and the racism that they face every day in and outside the school. Racism and the struggle for Black liberation today are serious causes born out of suffering and death. BLM is not a political optional club as hinted by Ms. Ziegler on her offensive Facebook post. Ziegler's comparison of the Black Lives Matter movement to the NRA and Planned Parenthood shows the disconnect and lack of understanding that she has, even as a board member, about racism and the suffering of those affected by it. Unlike a club, Blackness is not something optional that we can opt in or out of. However, it is the reason minorities are targeted, discriminated against, and paid less and are treated unfairly. I would like to remind you that this is not Black versus white. It is everyone versus racism. I encourage you today to bravely support an anti-racist education in Sarasota schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jordan Cohn, and on deck is Lainey Kamaleski.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Cohen, and I'm a senior at Pineview High School. I attended the last meeting to speak about masks and the Black Lives Matter movement, but today I would like to focus on the issue of racism and other minority discrimination in the Sarasota County school system. As I'm sure you know, a few weeks ago there was a Trump parade at Riverview High School where students dressed up as Donald Trump and paraded around school chanting and waving flags. And to make it very clear, this would have been disruptive if students had dressed up as any political figure. This act was more than disruptive and upsetting for many of the students, not to mention how hard it must have made paying attention in school that day. Students held up flags such as the Blue Lives Matter flag, Trump flags, and even a Don't Tread on Me flag, which can be seen as a racist symbol. It is easy to see how this could be upsetting, especially to students of color. School is not meant to be a place of battling political opinions. It is a place where students should feel safe and able to learn. And now that the election is over, I would hope this would become less of an issue, although I believe it will continue to be a disruptive problem. This is just one incident of students acting in a completely inappropriate way in schools because the school board and the school's administration allows for it. This is far from the only example of racism and discrimination in the Sarasota County school system. Students commonly lash out and call people racial and other slurs with no repercussions, saying things such as the N-word and F-slur, calling Jewish students such as myself kikes, and referring to COVID as the Kung flu or China virus. There is no excuse for this behavior that the school board does nothing to condone it. There is nothing taught in schools about racial sensitivity or anything similar to address homophobia, xenophobia, or anti-Semitism, and there should be. These are real-life issues and therefore should come with real-life consequences, not a simple talking to by schools' administrations with no repercussions. Students, especially high school students, need to learn that this behavior is unacceptable, and seeing that they are not being taught proper behavior in their homes, it falls on the schools to teach these students not to be discriminatory towards others. Students have a right to feel safe and comfortable in their schools, and it is the school board's job to see that this is done. With so much related to this going on in the world right now, I would hope that the school board would see how important it is to educate its students on the importance of racial and minority sensitivity. It is your job to make schools an accepting place. Do better.
Thank you. Lainey Kamaleski, and on deck is Michael Baird.
It's Shimoleski, by the way, but
Shimoleski.
okay. My name is Lane Shimoleski, and I'm a Sarasota County School graduate of the class of 2020 and currently attend The Ohio State University. In my 12 years of education in Sarasota, I have seen the ways that discrimination and racism affect myself as a queer Asian, as well as my fellow Black, Indigenous, and POC classmates. I can still remember being called chink, gook, faggot, students insulting my mother and pulling their eyes back to imitate mine. It was humiliating and degrading, and I can only imagine how it feels to my fellow classmates. Last fall, I worked with the school board to create the mental health module spreading awareness on suicide prevention, and with the help of a group of classmates, we were able to create a meaningful and impacting message to students, which started conversations about breaking the stigma of mental illness and suicide. Being a student who struggled with mental illness, I wanted to help students who face the same problems as me and educate them about it, as I never was. I think everyone can agree that the issue of mental health is extremely important to educate students about, as it can make students and faculty aware of its existence, help students recognize warning signs, and hopefully prevent students from ignoring their own mental health. Just as with mental health, it is extremely important and necessary to educate students about the existence of racism and police brutality in our country today and how to actively work against it. With this, it can bring similar conversations to spread awareness and prevent further spread of misinformation throughout the county. It is not an issue of politics, it is an issue of human rights. Censoring this history and current news is detrimental to students, as it has shown to do nothing but prevent progress in the right direction. In the Brain Pop video itself, the question that starts off the video says, and I quote, "Why are there so many people protesting about racism? I thought we fixed all this stuff a long time ago." This and the fact that there are people here tonight advocating against this education of the existence of racism and police brutality proves my point even further. Education leads to prevention, and censoring it only prevents growth. It is ignorant to admit that racism and police brutality do not exist today. As a student, I had to educate myself about these issues, as I was not taught about it at home. I think it is also safe to assume that parents won't educate their children about it if they didn't think it was a problem. Yet, if I were taught about this in school, I would have been able to speak out about and fight against these issues sooner. This applies to all students in Sarasota County and throughout the country, because silence is violence. And I urge the school board to do the right thing. To parents opposed, I ask you to recognize and challenge your own confirmation bias against the issue of police brutality and the Black Lives Matter movement. Your children as students will become the future, and the only way to prevent further disparity in this county, country, and world is with education. And I don't know one parent who wouldn't want their child to become more compassionate, more educated, and more empowered. Brain pop and classroom discussions about these issues are only one step in the right direction. We need to do more. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Baird. And then on deck is Sharon Doria. Doria? Doria.
Good evening. I came to weigh in on the Black Lives Matter controversy. You know, I think it's interesting that Superintendent Asplin said that Mr. DeSantis wanted to commemorate or recognize the Holocaust. And, you know, I think it's really important that he did that, but it's also interesting because a lot of people, a lot of young people, and there's adults who still don't realize it happened. They don't know that the Holocaust happened. And there was a series of articles about that recently where that was told, that people didn't know that that really happened. On the other hand, I think it's important that students know now, the young people know what's going on in our culture with Black Lives Matter. And I agree with some of the earlier speakers that it's not a terrorist organization. Black Lives Matter is simply a group that wants to recognize the issues that are going on with black people in America. And I think it's a shame that we can't show something as innocent and benign as brain pop. I'm an educator, I teach, and I think that there's no reason why we can't show that in class, and I wanted to weigh in on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Doria?
Doria.
And on deck is Vernell Coleman.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to address this board. As of last Friday, I am retired from my position as an IND teacher here in Sarasota County, so I thought it was appropriate I come and speak for the students who don't have a voice, RESC students. And if you would indulge me, I'd like you to listen and hear me as if I were talking about your student. Okay, if a child is placed in a cluster setting, there are a variety of different disabilities present in that room. It could be something like dyslexia. It could be Down syndrome. The grade ranges in one classroom can be kindergarten through 5th grade. This is not beneficial educationally, socially, developmentally, or emotionally for those students. Our special needs population needs to be more than a number, needs to be more than data. They have to be looked at much more holistically for their strengths as well as their weaknesses. Too many times that label is placed on that child and it's there for life. They're cut off at their knees and they're limited for future opportunities. Myself, as an IND teacher, regular ed teacher, and school psychologist, I've fought very hard for my students. I have even called Tallahassee to make sure I was doing the right thing. In my class, my IND class, I had a vice president of the student council. I had science fair winners, and I have now reversed 2 of those decisions to move students into the general ed population to give them the opportunities that they truly deserve. I want to urge this board to take a closer look at your ESC forms and your policies, maybe a task force to take a look at this and give these kids the chance that they truly deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vernell Coleman, and then on deck is Nora Negro Mitchell. Is Vernell Coleman here?
No, she's not.
Okay. Then Nora Mitchell. And on deck is Amy Cook.
Good evening. My name is Nora Mitchell. I'm a sophomore at Booker High School, and I am here once again to speak on behalf of Sarasota Students for Justice. We at SFJ are here once again to speak in support of integrating content regarding racism and the Black Lives Matter movement into our curriculum. Over the past few weeks, many have called our intentions into question and have misconstrued our vision. Hence, today, we want to make our vision abundantly clear. When we say that we want content about racism and the Black Lives Matter movement included in our curriculum, we are saying that we want teachers to be equipped with the ability and the resources to appropriately and respectfully teach and facilitate conversation about issues like racism, police brutality, and the Black Lives Matter movement. We are not suggesting that our teachers indoctrinate our students. The very suggestion that teachers are indoctrinating our students is an insult to our teachers who are working tirelessly to effectively teach our students and to help them be successful in the future. Teaching BLM is not indoctrination. It is education. It is the act of teaching students about the racism that pervades every aspect of our society. It is the act of teaching students the truth about the real world. It is the act of encouraging students to view our world critically. It is the act of inspiring students to build a system that is better than the one already in place. We simply cannot pretend that racism does not permeate our community and our schools. Racism exists in our textbooks, in our hallways, and even here at our school board meetings. It is foolish to suggest that the real-world events that occur outside our school walls do not penetrate our classroom discussions. It is foolish to claim that the historic events that have occurred within the past week and the past few months are not relevant to our curriculum. Oops. It is foolish to exclude and suppress content about racism and BLM because so-called, quote-unquote, concerned parents fear and deny the truth. I have said it before and I will say it once again. Education plays a vital role in our society. Our education system socializes our students. Our schools teach students about the norms, values, and ethics of our society. Everything that our schools teach our students will have an impact in the future. Everything we have learned and will learn will affect our future society. By continuing to suppress and exclude content about BLM and racism in our schools, the Sarasota County School District is continuing a vicious cycle of inequality and discrimination for people of color. Through the continuation of this vicious cycle, our school board is upholding the pillars of racism and inequity and is allowing these ideas to flourish. We cannot and should not raise this generation and those who will succeed us to be blind to the injustice that pervades our society. Therefore, we encourage the school board to continue to consider our proposed initiatives, such as the Board of Students, the implementation of anti-racist literature, the encouragement of anti-racist education sources. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nora Mitchell. And on deck is Amy Cook. What? Amy Cook.
So, today I didn't actually prepare a speech because my time is very valuable and you guys don't seem to listen to data so much. So I just want to come up here and kind of defend myself a little bit because I'm really sick and tired of these people saying that we're racist. I'm probably the most easygoing, kind person that you'll meet, but these people, not you guys, are treating us like we are horrible people, and we are not horrible people. I am a mother. I have 2 children. I'm a soccer mom. I was born and raised on a farm. I didn't come from anything special. But I made my life. I worked on the farm. I grew tobacco, cattle. We had gardens. I didn't grow up with the silver spoon, as you speak. Okay? I went to school. I went to college. I paid my way through. I did not come out with millions of dollars in debt, like these students are doing now. I came out and I paid almost all of it myself. I worked really hard, and I want my kids to see that. And I am here for them because I'm not going to give up. You guys do not intimidate me, and you do not intimidate the parents that are supporting us. Also, we don't care if you wear these masks or not. I know that they don't work. I know it's baloney. But just give us the right, okay? You're taking our rights away as humans. And everyone should be upset about that. Not just our side, your side. Everyone should be upset about our rights being taken away as people. You know, who's going to defend these people when all of our rights are gone? Who? It's going to be people like us, okay? But we're not going to be there for these people if they're not even trying to work with us. I'm really saddened. I'm saddened by this community who are dividing. I mean, those people out here, they have said more racist slurs than I've ever seen from anyone. My brother is married to someone who's from Africa. I have biracial family. I am married to a Latino. I am not a white girl that you want to call that's racist. I am not. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being called racist. So I just want to get that clear. And for everyone that's listening on YouTube, you should go and join the People's Rights Group. I am the area assistant for People's Rights in Sarasota and the surrounding counties, and I will be building that group to fight for our rights because no one else is going to do it. And I really wish that you guys would just listen to us. We are not here to fight with you. I am sick of fighting with these people. I'm sick of it. We are just here to take care of our children. So if we can't work together, what are we going to do?
Thank you, Amy. That is the end of hearing of citizens. Are there any addendums added to the consent agenda? Dr. Asplin? Are there any items added to, any addendums to add?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, item number 9, an addendum was added to the instructional classified personnel report.
Thank you. May I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
I move for approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Mrs. Brown?
I see no one on here, so all in favor, please say aye.
No, we've got,
You got what?
What? We've got this right here. Change your, let me fix it.
No, it's the other one.
You can still.
Okay, please vote.
Kiwi.
Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. There were no items pulled for comment. So under new business, may I please have a motion?
I move for approval of the 2020-2021 salary schedules for the bargaining unit, non-bargaining unit, and temporary substitutes. Descriptions, well, I'm not going to read the descriptions, but it's a pretty good deal, isn't it? I mean, it's really a nice raise. Some of this was mandated actually by the legislature, so our starting salary will be $47,500 for base salary for classroom teachers, new classroom teachers.
Second.
Mrs. Brown?
I'd just like to point out that we have included the legislature said the beginning salary has to be $47,500. We've raised up the other ones, and for those others who aren't included, there's a 3% salary increase. But we also had that 3% salary increase to what the substitute teachers are getting. So there had been some questions on that. So they're included in this. They're getting a 3% increase. And I understand that Mr. Asplin looked into what the substitutes are getting around our community, because there has been some talk about that. And perhaps he could mention that, or am I calling on you at a bad time? I'm sorry.
No, yes.
Just generally, I think
I can mention that. Our CFO Ms. Corcoran did some research for us as far as our substitutes are concerned. And yes, number one, our substitutes will be receiving a 3% increase on the substitute pay. But also, I think I think you need to know that when you look at the surrounding districts, our substitutes already make more per hour than any other district in our surrounding area.
And
that would include Charlotte.
I pulled it up, but
yes.
But if anybody wants to know what that is, you've got that, and
I do, and I can send it out to whoever would like to have it. I think I sent it to each of the board members earlier today.
I think Manatee is 110 at the highest, and there's hourly rates, and Hillsborough and Charlotte County, but we're not magnanimous, I mean, above them, but we are a little bit above. I think you found it now.
Yes, I did. So in Sarasota County, for instance, our substitutes who have a BA degree, which is most of our substitutes, right now they make $123 per hour, $123.17 per hour. Manatee substitutes make $100 an hour. Pinellas is $70 an hour. Hillsborough.
No, it's a day. It's a day, not an hour.
I mean a day, I'm sorry. All the substitutes are jumping for joy. Where's the camera? Where's the camera? I need it. That is not correct, okay, substitutes? I know that's what, oh my goodness. Okay, let's try that again. That would surely be nice, wouldn't it, substitutes, all of you listening? So $123 per day is what our BA substitutes make. And then in Manatee County, it's $100, Pinellas is $70, Hillsborough is $82.50, and Charlotte is $112. And then, like I said, we will, I think that is after the 3% raise, but even before the 3% raise, we were still higher than, even before our 3% raise, we were still higher than these surrounding counties.
Thank you.
Daily, not by the hour.
Thank you, Doc. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to thank Mrs. Corcoran and the finance team. This was, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into this. I know this was something that Governor DeSantis and the legislature championed, and really with the crux of understanding the important role that our educators play and really wanting to attract and retain high quality educators. And so I'm eager to see this. I will also say though, salary is important for everyone. To be able to afford the cost of living here and to live in Sarasota, but it's also the environment in which you work. So it's not solely the financial benefits. And I think that there is a lot of effort on the superintendent to really look at the culture to impact that, because, and I know we talked about it earlier, even on the concurrent teaching, being very cautious and cognizant of how much people can take, and no matter how much money you put in someone's pocket, at some point that there is a breaking point. And so I would be remiss if I didn't add that in, because I know we have a number of items here that I'm very excited that we're in a county that we're able to offer this, but it isn't lost on me, and I don't believe any members of this board, that the circumstances that we're in are unique, and that's for everyone, but it is tremendously important that we continuously evaluate the effectiveness of the situation to retain that, but also to ensure that we have quality outcomes for our kiddos, because that is what we are here for. And I know that that is on the superintendent's, I know that is a priority, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to reiterate my appreciation to all of the staff that are working incredibly hard right now, and that we hope that the increased salary will assist as well, but we recognize that that's not the end all be all, and we'll continue to work on that. Thank you.
Mrs. Goodwin.
Well, I want to say thank you to both the union and to our staff who got together and made this all happen easily, or easier than some other years. But I also want to talk to the staff and say thank you. A starting salary for a teacher, $47,500, plus the benefits we give, which are much better than most districts as well, puts a new teacher over 50. And that's a really good thing. So I encourage people who are in college or those who are still in our schools, to consider teaching. It's a wonderful profession. I started my career as a teacher, and I've always thought of myself as a teacher. So consider it, because it's a wonderful profession. And I want to say to those substitutes out there who haven't been feeling love, it's not $123 an hour, but it's a lot more than, you know, 170, 80, and 112 a day. And we do care a great deal for our substitutes. We need more substitutes. If there's anyone out there that wants to apply, we really would appreciate it. But I just want to say to all of our staff who are making all the decisions to help our kids learn and be safe and secure, thank you. And I think this is a wonderful, wonderful tribute to our school district.
Well, I just want to say that I'm glad I'm going out while on and up. We were able to resolve our union contracts and gave people nice raises, but never be enough. It's never enough. But we were able to come to consensus and agree on the teacher salaries and all the other salaries as well. So please vote. May I have a motion on the passes 5-0?
I move item 37, which is the school board to approve the teacher salary increase allocation. The previous one was for non-instructional.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote. Somebody didn't vote. Who's the second one up there?
You have to hit confirm.
No, I can see it up there.
It's you, Ms. Tucker.
Hit confirm.
Me?
Hit confirm.
She was just checking to make sure we were paying attention, right? I'm glad I gave you such a laugh. Okay, the motion passes 5-0. I can hear you, Mrs. Corcoran, up here.
I move for approval of the 2020-2021 instructional. You hit it too fast. I can't read the rest of it.
The changes in the language for both instructional collective bargaining, this is for the contract language changes.
As presented.
This language.
Do I have a second?
Second. A lot of this language, I think, talks about the complicated way that there's going to be days off for COVID, and you know, what counts for sick, what goes to family medical leave, and it's very important to them and us.
Mr. Hardy would like to speak.
Good. I just wanted to let the board know, as you've already mentioned in part, we were engaged over the last couple of months in bargaining with the SCTA. Dr. Asplin and I are pleased to present this to you this evening, these agreements. The primary part of this you've already discussed, which is increasing pay for all of our employees at least 3%, and to raise starting teacher salaries up to $47,500, which is at least a 3% increase and more for our most junior teachers. There is also language in here. I certainly won't go through all of it. It's available. I know the board has looked at it. It's available for the public. But one of the other big things is, as Ms. Brown was saying, the so-called COVID days, so that when employees are required to stay home because of contact tracing or because they test positive, they will be given some extra time that they can use for which they're paid. As you may remember, federal law, which will expire in about a month and a half, gave all employees 10 days to use. This gives our employees an additional 10 days, so that if people are required to stay home, and if they can't work, some employees can work from home, but many can't, that they will continue to be paid for up to 20 days. So I would like to thank the SCTA bargaining team, obviously. They worked with us on this, and our bargaining team, your bargaining team, Mitzi Corcoran, Jody Dumas, Laura Kingsley, Al Hareda, Lori Breslin, Stephen Covert, and Allison Foster, all of whom were valuable members of the team and helped to get this to a positive resolution. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, this is one of the difficult things when you're up here on the board because you got to vote yes or no. I'm going to be voting for it, but I do want to. My fellow board members know my one objection, and I'm just going to make sure I voice my objection now when I have time. Is the fact that we're limiting the number of days that staff has. You could be a custodian, a food service worker who's living a paycheck to paycheck, and through contact tracing, be told that you have to go home through no fault of your own. You're not sick. You're not able to work remote. A food service worker can't work remote. And if they use beyond their 20 days, they may end up having to use their sick leaves. So they could end up we have people who have cancer, we have people who are going with chemo, we have people who really need their sick time. And so I think if you're a supervisor, your company tells you that you have to stay at home through no fault of your own and you're not sick, I think that you should not have to use up your own sick day. I'm gonna try not to say the teacher's name, but there was an employee of ours who had an article in the paper this spring. She did allow me to say her name, but I'm still not going to. She had an article in the Herald Tribune this spring. Ryan McKinnon wrote the story where this person worked multiple jobs. They worked 3 to 4 jobs, and this person has already been quarantined twice, which is 20 days. So if this person gets quarantined another time, they're going to have to start using their own sick leaves. If this person isn't able to work remotely, and I'm sure that's just one person that I know. She happens to be a tutor for my children, so I happen to know her personally. So if there's one employee out of the 5,000, I'm sure that there's multiple employees. And so my concern is for those employees. So I'm still going to vote for this. 20 days is better than no days, but I just wanted to make sure that my position is known on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brown?
I too have, concerns about the number of COVID days you can give and can't give, and how many COVID days are because of something that happened at school versus, maybe they had to be quarantined because of someone outside of school. But I think our substitutes are the ones who are really left out in the cold when it comes to COVID days. And it's unfortunate. How do we handle those if we have a teacher that comes in or a substitute that comes in and has to be quarantined because a student in that class ended up with testing positive? That person can't work any place for 2 weeks, and that's a problem. I think maybe they'd be handled on a one-on-one, and perhaps we might be looking to perhaps the union, perhaps the Education Foundation, or something in the community that when there are extenuating circumstances like that, that we might be able to help them. And hopefully, we can reach out, or they can reach out to us, and we can perhaps steer them into a way that we can get some resolution for these issues when they come up. And hopefully, it won't be many, but with the vaccine coming out, but I don't think we'll be able to get that until next school year. But, especially for substitutes. I mean, if we tell a substitute, you can't work for 2 weeks, they can't work in the school district, they can't work anywhere else. And if they needed an income, there's an issue. And I would like to hopefully that maybe there's somebody out there that can help us when we have these types of issues, that we can go to someone. because they don't qualify for unemployment if they only work the one day. So, but we've tried to make it fair for our teachers and for us, and this is what we've got. But I'm sure that this is the same kind of issues that a lot of businesses and a lot of individuals are facing right now.
Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. Are there any announcements? Mr. Robinson?
I know Dr. Asplin, whenever he gives a superintendent report, it seems like there's a day for everything. But I do want to recognize that he missed one thing off that today is. And since we have Mitzi Corcoran, the Associate Superintendent and CFO, today is International Accounting Day. So I know we recognize Mitzi all day long, and I'm sure Jody and Dr. Kingsley are like, when's our day? But today is Mitzi Corcoran's Day, International Accounting Day.
Yay, Mrs. Corcoran. Mrs. Ziegler?
I know it's been a long meeting, so I just wanted to, for the upcoming meeting or perhaps the workshop, I wanted to see if we could add the item of the audit committee and get an update from the chair, Mrs. Goodwin. I believe that is you at the current moment. I don't know that there's much, but if we can just highlight, I know we just hired the firm, and maybe get a sense of what the scope of work is, what the meeting schedules are like, and just a brief update if we could add that to the workshop. I think that would be helpful. And finally, I wanted to thank all the veterans in this community for all of the work that we've done, and our fellow veteran up here, Mr. Robinson, thank you for your service. I have to tell you that Sarasota County Schools does a tremendous job celebrating and honoring our veterans in so many ways. I wish some of the ceremonies that my favorite at some of the elementary schools. It's just a really cool thing to see. But I know that there's a lot of events planned for tomorrow, and again, finding the best way to honor our heroes who have fought for this wonderful country. So with that, I close.
Mrs. Brown?
A brief follow-up to something else Dr. Asplin was talking about. Well, one, the storm, and just because we passed it on Monday, it's out there and it's ready to come back. So don't anybody get too comfortable, because we may still be in that when it comes back to Florida the end of this week. But we were talking about the impending or upcoming notification from the Department of Education. We've got a lot of fun dates coming up in November. Of course, next Wednesday, a week from Wednesday, is another professional day for teachers to get ready. The following Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving, and that's another day off. Parents won't have to make a decision on then when the Department of Education puts out that report. In fact, it won't even be when you come back, because the end of our semester has been moved back. Isn't it like mid-January now? Yeah, so it's not a decision that has to happen right when they come back. But I wanted to thank the speakers who came today and spoke. I mean, I thought we had a very good decorum. We had some interesting, thoughtful comments. There are people who wanting to reach out and say, we understand you've got rights too, and that we want to work together for our kids. I like that, and I like that they're coming forward with some concrete things that they would like to see. But more importantly is that the anger and the rhetoric seem to have died down, and I think there's been real conversation this week, and I appreciate them coming. We do have policies on discrimination, bullying, and harassment. It is not allowed, supposedly, in our schools. We know what happens, and we'll take actions to try to do that, but if anyone feels that they are harassed or discriminated against, at each school there are complaint forms to be filled out, and I would really encourage you to do that. If you have been discriminated, harassed, or bullied in a school, go to the office, fill out a form, and hopefully we'll see where it goes, because that is something that we do not allow. We've got policies against that. But like they said, we still have discrimination, harassment, and bullying in our schools, and we need to work to overcome that.
Dr. Aspen?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I know it's 9 o'clock. I just had a couple of things that I just wanted to say here. So first of all, yes, I agree, Ms. Brown. I think, tonight with our speakers, I thought that was excellent. Our speakers gave us a lot of information to think about. And it was all done in a definitely appropriate way, which I really appreciate. I know our folks were writing down information so that we can discuss the information. Not that we don't discuss it when it's, how should I say, if it's said more in anger, it's not that. We're discussing the issues, but I do appreciate the fact that we did stick to the issues and we did do it in a respectful, collegial manner. So thank you all for that, all the speakers. I also want everyone to know that, we don't answer speakers or talk with speakers. We write down the information, we go back and we work on it. But there are a couple of things that I just wanted to clear up. And first of all, I want everyone to understand that sometimes I get a feeling that that the board has done something with the curriculum recently, and the board hasn't. I want everybody to understand the board has not made a decision or changed our curriculum at all. I know since I've been here, and that was from August 10th, and I know before that the board hasn't changed it. We do operate using our Florida standards. Our teachers work through that every single day. Our board has not changed our curriculum at all. So if you're out there and you hear of things that maybe the board has changed or done or are siding with this or not siding, that is just not true. The board, truthfully, I believe the board advocates for all students. They try to make decisions for all students. And remember, we have a diverse society. We have different students and different families with different needs and different thoughts that we have to take into consideration. We just can't look at one particular area. And so one of those items is the brain pop issue. And I just want to make sure everybody understands. I keep hearing that the school board has censored or pulled brain pop out and nobody can ever look at it. That's just not true. In brain pop, there are plenty of videos, not just BLM related. There are plenty of videos that brain pop has put at the beginning of their video a little bit of language that says, highly sensitive information, you need an adult or a parent to watch this with you. Those are the ones that we put, I don't want to say a red flag, I think we call it blue coding, and all it is for our teachers to recognize, oh, that's one of those that we have to call downtown or talk to our executive director to say we'd like to do this, and we'll send home a permission form saying that we are going to talk about this as a current event or whatever it might be, and we were looking at showing this. If your child does not want to see this, then we can find another activity for your child. No one is saying that the school board has chopped it out and no one can ever see it again. It's all about getting parent permission so the parent has control over that type of issue in which even brain pop has put at the beginning of the video that it's highly sensitive in adult. So it's not about the content necessarily, because there are probably 10 or 15 videos that have nothing to do with BLM that we also have blue coded because of that little phrase in front of brain pop. So with brain pop, they are a third party curriculum source. People at home can bring brain pop up on your computer and there isn't even a red flag or a blue coat because we can't control what you see at your house. We only put that control on our school board devices so that students can't just automatically go in there, and so the parents have say. If you're at home and you want to watch brain pop and you want to talk to your kids about it, you can watch this. You can watch the videos. No one is stopping anyone, and we haven't taken it out of the curriculum because it was never in the curriculum. It was there with a sensitive material item that we then blue coded. So that's where we are there, and that's more about a current event. I do hear people who say, look, the Black Lives Matter curriculum, for instance, and I'm not saying I'm against it, I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm not saying anything. All I'm saying here is facts. BLM curriculum, please leave it in. we can't leave it in because it's not in there. Some people are saying, BLM, you gotta take it out. We can't take it out because it's not in there. And the only thing that's actually in there is the brain pop piece, which is a third-party material from a vendor that has a little saying at the beginning, highly sensitive information that we blue coded, that you have to have a process to get parent permission to see. So I just want everybody to understand that. And then at the beginning of the year, when we pulled back on the Dr. Holly material, I've had so many people tell me that this group strong-armed me and that group strong-armed me and this and that, and I just want to make sure everybody understands. When we had that was the second day of pre-planning. And normally in pre-planning, teachers do not want us to give them any sort of training because they are putting their rooms together, they're working to get ready for school. And if you remember, we were supposed to open on August 10th. And this PD was scheduled a year ahead of time, and it was scheduled whenever the teachers ended up coming back, because remember, we moved everything back 2 weeks. We started August 31st instead of August 10th. It wouldn't have landed during pre-plan, but it did because of COVID. That threw everybody for a loop. A lot of people tuned out because they didn't want to watch it. Also, there were some highly sensitive things that were said in that particular video that I had to go back as a new superintendent coming in. I had to go back and look at the information and say, what are we trying to train our teachers on? What is the information? What does it sound like? It's bad timing. Do we want to spend the money? Let's just put on the brakes, not spend the money, take a look at it, and then see where we need to go based on the situations that we're in. With that, as you know, I'm creating this committee. The committee is going to begin probably December or January. I've asked 30 different people to be on the committee. I've found 8 people who actually want to be on the committee so far. So I'm working on building the committee. I'd like to have 15 people on there. Once I have that, we are going to have these conversations to see where we need to go with what. And knowing that there's all different cultures of folks who are going to be on the committee, all different, so that we can have this general conversation about culture and race and everything else. So I'm not sure where we're going to go with that, but we're going to talk about it and go. We also have the equity position that I'm bringing on board, and I'm going to be hiring that person soon. It just closed, and we're going to be interviewing so that we can have these conversations. So when I say have these conversations, that doesn't mean we're going to do this or that. It means have conversations so that we can decide where we want to go. So I know I'm taking a lot of time, but I just want to make sure everybody understands the facts, okay? And so the Dr. Holly piece at the beginning of the year, you know, bad timing. I think it wasn't very good presentation of the material. I've looked at the material. I think there's another way to present some of that material, but I'm not even moving forward with that until after we have this committee and we have all different people looking at what we need to do. Because I really want this to be a positive type of training. Also, the training had nothing to do with student curriculum. The training was about training teachers to be more sensitive to the cultures of our students, to understand their background, understand their environment, understand where they're coming from, so that they can build a relationship with the students, so that they can move forward and teach them and have a better strategy to teach them their reading and their math material, to where students would listen and be engaged because students would be more in tune with the culture. It wasn't to teach or put into the curriculum any kind of cultural responsiveness. It was to help our teachers understand how to work with students of different cultures so that we could close the achievement gap. So I know that's a lot of information. It's probably confusing, but I just wanted you all to understand that. And I think that we all can work together, as I've been saying all along. We all need to work together, recognize that we have all these differences and all these different people. This is a public school system. It's not private. You can't just come in and say, here's what it's going to be, because that's what I want it to be. And as a parent, that's it. What we can do is let parents know what we are going to do to see if parents want to opt out, but we still have to offer all different types of information to our students, because we are diverse. And I think we can do that. I think we can come together. I think we can work together. I think this committee is going to help us out. And it's not intended to offend anybody. It's intended to work together to help everybody understand, to eventually then help our students, okay? And so I think I'm just going to stop there. I'm just going to stop there. But if anybody has a question, you know, please ask. And in the meantime, just give us time to have this committee. Give me time to hire this person so we can look at things. And I'm not trying to push an agenda. The board's not trying to push an agenda. We're trying to do the right thing and serve an entire community of diverse backgrounds, and hopefully everybody work together. That's the goal. That's the goal, to help our students at the end of the day through that. So thank you all very much. I hope that made sense, and I will be quiet.
Mrs. Goodwin.
All righty. I'll be very quick. I just wanted to say that at our next workshop, we will have a platform that we can adopt from Florida School Board Association, from the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, and we will have our lobbyist on Zoom with us at, I think, 1 o'clock to go over our potential platform for next year, because we need to start looking at our local platform as well. I don't know when the local delegation is going to have their meeting, where that will need to be presented, but we need to get on it. So all of the two platforms that I mentioned to you will be arriving with you tomorrow. I also did some research on choosing a lawyer from Escambia County, and that document will come to you as well.
Okay. So the next board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, November 17th, are the oath of office for the new board members, a work session to be determined, board meeting scheduled for 3 o'clock, and we are adjourned.